eat what they like. It doesn't kill them, doesn't harm them, and doesn't make them any different from. You get it? So cultural diversity is about giving mutual respect. Respect each other the way you are. In fact, the convention Amos was talking about, they all have one thing in common. You get it? Anything that is not against human rights, that's what those conventions promote, including all the aspects of cultural diversity. You get it? So it's very important to get that, so that as you sit down to develop content for your films, know that whatever content you should come up with should not interfere with the rights of others. So to me, that is very, very important. Whether they are minority groups and for you are a majority. You know, there is a tendency of feasting, you know, on the cultures of the minorities. Because you think they are very few and you think they have queer culture, cultures and so on, and then whatever you begin doing is to demean who they are and what they do and what they believe in and so on. I'm happy that we are meeting, and we are meeting the right people who develop content. It's very important. Yes, we are calling for content and we are calling for too much of it because it's not there. But can we have content that is fit for everyone? Actually, somebody was telling me that in other countries, they produce content based on certain standards. That they don't need to say this content is appropriate to this age. They produce universal content. I wish we could reach a time and say, no, from age what to age what, this is okay to everybody. Other than say, no, from 18 and above, this is your content. To this, no. You get it? So these are some of the things, and I'm happy they are coming out. And you're also telling us that this is what you feed on, because this is what your audience wants. But get to know today that there are those who don't want, those who feel offended, who cry every day because of, remember your school days. There are certain things you used to tell to your fellow students, and they will get annoyed and take to the headmaster or the master on duty and report you. So, because of time, I will not. Yes, I've seen him. Yes, please.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. There are some areas, or there are some circumstances where, for example, there are some practices within our cultural settings which are really not suitable, I would say, my own opinion, but to that culture, it is suited. For example, if I would write some content about why you are against, why support, what do I do? That is an example of some of the practices. And there are some other bad practices. But they are very suitable.
I replaced the one.
As a creator, what am I supposed to do? Which kind of perspective should I bring in such a message to the rest of the world? Why go against? Why protect?
It's a very good observation. Do you go against or do you protect? Let me remind you of an incident that was about to happen. I remember, was it last year? When NBS was supposed to air a documentary. A documentary from Bunyoro. Do you click? What was it about? No, it was something about cannibalism. You remember or you don't remember? And many people came out until the Prime Minister said it should never see the light of the day. Because the practice is against our laws, our cultural practices, and so on. It was never aired. You get it? But we know it exists. You get it? But we know it as an evil. Isn't it? Female genital mutilation is against the laws of Uganda. In fact, if you are caught practicing it, you would go to prison. As we speak now. Now, in such a situation, do you promote it or you discourage it? Any content to come out and is promoting it is against the laws of. That means you are doing an illegality. But if you want to create awareness about it, you get it? Again, there is a way you present it. Yes, dissuading people, you get it, from doing this. So it applies to so many other practices that may not be in line with the laws of Uganda. And remember, laws of Uganda do protect cultural practices that are positive. Cultural practices that are not against human rights. Anything against human rights is not acceptable under the laws of Uganda, but it's also not promoted under the UNESCO conventions government of Uganda has ratified. So just take note of that. Members, let's not waste more time. I would like to take this opportunity to invite Sarah Sigaye. She will talk about herself, then she can be in position to make her presentation. Sarah, because of time, kindly try to manage so that we can finish on time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I never pass summary, but I will try. My name is Sarah Chisel Sigaye. I'm a documentary filmmaker, I'm a journalist, and I'm a culture manager. And I want to start by thanking UNESCO for organizing this. And I want to thank you for inviting me, and I want to thank everybody for coming. Because I think the timing cannot have been better, because we are having this conversation at the right time when the medium of film is picking up as a mass medium, particularly because of even online media, because there are stereotypes that have been happening in film, but were not captured because we were not yet mass media distributors in terms of our reach. I also want to thank the presenters that came earlier, but I would like to start by thanking Mr. Agaba. I think he has left, because when I had him present, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I think he captured what I wanted to say. So I told Mr. Kawesi, what am I going to do? Because I think I was well represented in the previous presentation. And then he said, emphasize. So some of the things that I'm going to say, you may have heard, I'll emphasize, and possibly there's going to be tricks. I'm going to start by telling you a story. When I was growing up, I knew that Koko bunyoro, like chicken that are not like healthy, big, and what? Bunyoro. Who do you think is my mother? Thank you. There's some time I went to Zanzibar. I found this handsome guy, and I like dropped from the sky, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is so handsome. And I was so lucky because he also liked me back. I'm telling you a story. So I'm like, I don't subscribe to those people who, if you like someone, you stay away. So since he kept staring and everything, I said, hey, hello, how are you? Fine. We talked. He said, you're my sister, you look like my mother. I said, you like my brother, you look like my dad. And it's the truth. That part was not lying. And then he says, I am Nyaranda. I said, yes. I was like, okay, maybe this guy is also from Rwanda. Then he said he's from Burundi. Let me tell you, I wanted to run as fast as my legs could do what? Carry me, why? Abarundi baine bichi? Thank you.
So that's stereotype. As I sit here, I want to tell you that I am not immune of stereotypes because I am a product of my what? Of my society. I was born in a society that does what? Stereotypes. So it's normal, it's natural, but it is bad. So when you are a communicator, a mass communicator, did I go ahead to talk to that guy? Yes. Why? Because I am a journalist. And journalism has helped me surpass some of those stereotypes. I said, come on, I'm not going to miss talking to a nice guy because he's Amrunda and he has Vitega. I'm going to deal with those Vitega. So you understand? So what am I saying? That we are human beings. So naturally, we have informed perceptions of who people are. But also God places us in a manner that, based on our experiences, based on our work, based on who we impact, we can go beyond who we are. You understand? I am a woman, I'm Munyarwanda, half Muganda. I was born in Najanankumbi. My mother went to Chisenyi, so I have a bit of ghetto life, city life, and urban rural life. And all those experiences inform me. I was educated by the Adventists. I was educated by the Catholics. My primary was with Muslims. So I'm a very liberal person, only Muslim, because those are the experiences that inform me, and they've helped me become a better person. But it doesn't mean that I'm a very good person, right? I also have stereotypes. But one thing that I am able to do is to understand some of my stereotypes. When you come to this room today as a filmmaker, the one thing you will not avoid is having stereotypes yourself, perceptions. But the conscious effort to recognize that I'm a human being who has already perceptions about life, and I need to get out of that. And that's something that we are going to be discussing. But the other thing that you also have to understand, let me tell you about our bus drivers and taxi drivers. Someone is seated driving 80 people, and they do not understand that they are responsible for 80 lives. That 80 people have vested their life in them. And that is a problem. And that is a problem filmmakers today have. Because you want to do a film and say, I'm a filmmaker, I just made a film. I did 200 films, and they were all well received. To what end? Why? Because you see, in as much as film is a business, film is bigger than business. So if you are in film because of business, kindly get out. Why? Because film comes with responsibility. The understanding that you are addressing people, and because you're a mass communicator, what you're saying there is going to impact on people. It is responsibility and something you cannot take lightly, the same way someone who is a bus driver taking lives of 80 people should not just overtake and do things as they please because they want to get somewhere, but they are responsible for the lives of 80 people. Same thing as a border person who is riding a border, and they have these people, this person they are carrying. And half the time, even as, for example, if you're driving and a border comes and swerves, and you're so upset at the border, you want to hustle them back. If you are a parent or a normal understanding being, what are you going to do? You're going to think about the life of the passenger being carried. Half the time, the passenger will join the border to abuse you, by the way. But never mind, as a responsible person, you're going to say, that person is carrying a life. But also, be the right person, be the better person, and realize that that person doesn't know what they are doing. Let me protect them. You understand? So I thought I should share that because most filmmakers, and a conversation that I had, which rightly so, I think the gentleman here was talking about, we need to make money because we put in money. And the person said, if you government, you want us to change, you have to give us money. That part saddened me a bit, but I don't blame him. But it saddened me a bit because we also have to come with responsibility. Why do you want your government to invest money in you to do business? Why do you undermine your power? Because you have power. When you get a camera, when you write a script, when you have the power to influence mind. And I think it was Steve Biko who said the most important weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the words, the mind. And that is why Bazungu stopped working on us a long time ago. Why? Because they control the media. They control how we think. They control the education system that we celebrate. You understand? So if you understand that, then you have taken care of the mind. So if you are a filmmaker who is coming to do film, or you're a theater director, we had Christopher Muchibi, amazing director. I am so sorry for the people here who may have missed. If Christopher Muchibi comes back to theater, please go, because there is a lot to learn from that gentleman. And he is telling a Ugandan story. He is critiquing. There might be some stereotypes, right? But he is telling a story that any Ugandan or human being will watch and reflect and think, but also enjoy and laugh. And basically, not so much at the expense of other people. So when you go and sit and tell a story, and the sole purpose of you telling a story is because you want to make money. In as much as coming from a journalism background, I don't so much as I'm a bit uneasy with vetting us. I think it's okay to vet us because everywhere there should be order. I'm worried about where it will end. So in as much as I may not support the issue of let them look at our films and throw out the ones that are bad, I think I'll agree that for a person whose sole purpose was to come and talk about film and make money, that was the purpose. For me, I feel they should go home because they have not understood the power they yield. Then permit me to go here. So the topic is stereotypes in film and theater. I will sneak into theater a bit, that's not my area, and how we can be better, more inclusive storytellers. And then I got a quote from online, so I'm sorry I can't give credit, but this says, when I look at a person, I see a person, not a rank, not a class, not a title. And that tells you about who is a good human being, who is not stereotyping. But the reason why I started with a disclaimer of we all stereotype, if Mr. Ojede comes here, are you going to treat him the way you treat Sarah? Mr. Ojede worked and earned the fact that he is the executive director of Uganda National Culture Center, right? So you will respect him as the director of Uganda National Culture Center and our host. Even good manners indicate that you do that, right? But it doesn't mean that to treat Mr. Ojede well, you will have to treat Sarah less. I think that's what will make you a better storyteller. Recognizing that to celebrate Mr. Ojede and put him up, Sarah doesn't have to go down. Sarah can also be respected as a human being. No, I haven't started them again, yeah. So I started with that quote to kind of onboard us. This is very long and it might be a bit tricky, but I just wanted to also share what I've sort of alluded to, which is stereotypes are everywhere and it is hard to get by the day without hearing them. Perpetuating them ourselves, and every day we all perpetuate them. Honestly, I think we should also look at the magnitude, because there are times when I've told people, even my children, omukazi takola atu, omusajja takola atu, but omukazi is a human being, omusajja. Of course, because I am coming from a point of view of telling my daughter to become a better person, probably that is permissible. So probably we are going to weigh when we say stereotypes, because there are also positive stereotypes. We have decided Ugandans are hospitable. It's a stereotype, but a positive one. It's just that stereotyping tends to have a negative connotation. So I then went ahead to say, but they hurt the victim, make it difficult to interact with other people. You understand? That's why I told you about the story of Ebitega. Yeah, eh? And when we were growing up, I think it's okay now to say you are Amunyaranda. But when we were growing up, for us who are not very young, you couldn't say you are Amunyaranda. First of all, they were looking for them. But also, because sometimes we are informed by our experiences. So I am told that when Rwandese had just come here as refugees, 3 things happened. One, they had very beautiful women, so they took, the men took them, gave them land, gave the men who were supposedly brothers land, and that did not rub well with the mothers. You understand? Or with the wives. But the second thing is we use, I say that because I am their descendant, that a Munyarwanda person would be here and they would, Okufuja Maluso, I can't capture that in English, and they would spit, and they are here and it goes there. And people found it very disgusting. So from their perspective, they have a what? A point, because it's not healthy, it's not hygienic. But do all Rwandese do that? No. And a lot of them have moved away. So my mom would tell me, you understand? And I was like, "Ne mama ndi Munyarwanda. Kubanga obera kabira ya tata. Gwe oli Muganda, nze ndi muki? Ndi Munyarwanda." Then she would insist on that. Of course, there were other things that they used to, especially like towards the end of the 80s. No, like towards 86 when Museveni was coming in. They would even get Banyarwanda and put them on whatever, and they disappear. And partly because there was a thinking that the president was a Munyarwanda and a lot of the people who were rebels were Banyarwanda. So I asked my mother one day, and this was a very young girl asking my mother, that, naye mama, Daddy, teakubulirako nti Munyarwanda. And she said, I'm shocking my mother now. For the people who don't understand Luganda, I'm sorry. I'll try to translate. So my mother did, as I already said, did not want me to declare that I'm a Munyarwanda. She's a Muganda, but she also had security concerns probably, and probably it wasn't a very in thing for Omwana Wabantu. The women, they would marry, but Omwana Wabantu to get around this man wasn't also exactly nice those days. I'm talking about the stereotype. But as time has passed now, people are actually coming for these people and whatever, so it has passed. So I told my mother that, didn't my father tell you that he's a Munyarwanda? Then she said, why? Then I said, because if you knew it was bad and it had problems, why did you go ahead to get married to him and even get us? My mother is a very tough woman, but for the first time, I think, this young girl woke that mother, my mother, to sobriety, because I think she said, hey, wait a minute, this child, what she's asking, actually, because I don't remember after that my mother ever telling me not to declare that I'm a Munyarwanda. But she was also a product of a stereotype who found a very handsome man, the wife found the Murundi guy, you understand? Yeah, but back to here. So, so you see how it makes it difficult to interact in society. Because then you develop all those things, then they impede progress. And in many ways, because you can get a good staff, and you say, how can I employ that person? Are they going to be good? You know, those people do this and that, so they impede progress. And as filmmakers and directors of theater and creators generally, people who have the power to communicate massively, influence perceptions and attitudes, we are not exempt. I think I already talked about this. The difference is that if we perpetuate them, the effects can be there. And what do I mean by that is because we communicate massively and people believe us. And if you don't want to know that people believe us, you listen to news, and even you yourself, you say, Chitufu, even when the news is not spot on. I had it on the news, so it is right because you had it on the news. That is where I was coming from when I say understand the confidence people have vested in you. Then you have seen how now lifestyles have changed. Do you understand? I again keep referring to it like you've seen people, they are here conversing between each other, but they are shouting. Why do you think they are shouting? On radio, the presenters are doing what? Shouting. On TV, the people are doing what? It means that people think this is an in thing because they are looking unto us. That's why we should not take the responsibility that we have by virtue of our professions lightly, because the consequences of our actions are there. So, what then should we do to get rid of the stereotypes? We must invest in taking the decision and doing the checks and balances. And this begins by understanding what are stereotypes, okay? And I think I already explained what are stereotypes, but I'll say it again. A generalized characterization of certain groups of people based on a few, like when you observe a few, or what has been said, and there are some typos here, just ignore them, what has been said about them. Because if we say that we've seen a few, I've never seen a Murundi with Bitega. Me, in my life, I've never seen it. I had not even interacted with them. But the thing is, I had my mother say. Of course, some people might say, Abasoga, they do this because they're informed by their experiences. But if that's their experience and it does not harm people, why do you then decide that you're going to be the one to put it down? And if it is harming people, how do you deal with it? I'll come there later. So, as I said, usually bearing a negative, disproving connotation. I want to say it again. I stereotype. Because I am a product of my society. I just now make a conscious effort. I try. When I go, I say, isn't that? Because now I know that stereotyping is what? But that's why I'm saying, UNESCO, you did a right thing, because this is a conversation, a now conversation, for us to start having, so that we are already conscious. Like when I would go to Sudan, I even went and I put a bandage, Southern Sudan. I put a bandage on my palm. Why? Because those people will do him. I'm stereotyping. Because I am basing on a few. I've met very many Sudanese who don't do him. Like sneeze and then touch in and throw and then come and shake your hands. You understand? But when I went with that. I don't want to say it changed very much. But am I right? I am not right. Because I am based on that. So will it be right for me to do a film showcasing Sudanese people as that? No, because there are very many Sudanese who are not like that, but it's the ones that I have met. So, the other thing that I used to do when I was in Sudan, because people might say, but those people are very nice. Every time they want to share a meal with someone, there is no single time I was in Sudan and I did not have a stomach ache. Why? I didn't want them to give me food. Because I was fearing. But, as I say, not all Sudanese do that. A few of them do that. The way Rwandese must have been treated the way I was thinking of Rwandese. But, as a responsible person, I will never, ever put a film showing that the Sudanese are the ones who do that. I would probably talk about the habits and put the habit down, but not attach it to a tribe. So that's part of it. So, as we said, the steps to avoid stereotyping, one of them is understanding what is stereotyping. So, how do we then say, so when you're doing a film and you're going to put an Acholi guard, think about it. Am I being is what I am doing stereotype? Yeah? I think when she talks about it, she actually has a point. I think we just did skits and a lot of our guards were from the north, right? But we were celebrating those guards in those films, right? I remember, I have a friend of mine called Monique Okot who died during COVID. But in our school group, there was someone who shared a post and he was saying, I'm looking for an Acholi Askari. And Monique Okot said, what is that person talking about? In Acholi, we have big land. Industries are coming about. Our young people should be busy in Acholi working on developmental things. Look for Askaris in the south. So I came up and I said, Monica, there is a saying that the northerners are very honest. Might it be that the person wants that person because they are honest and so they can trust them? And then she said grudgingly, okay, probably. In that case, they are some. But we also but we also have a lot of things to do. They should stop looking for actually guards. You understand? But that is also where it impedes development. You understand? Because how many other people can come and be guards? Because it's a paid job. What are the rates of unemployment in this country? But how many Baganda, Banyaranda, Banyankole, Batoro, whatever will refuse to go because they think it's a demeaning job? Let us also handle this by celebrating those jobs and looking at them from the perspective of these people are doing an awesome job. And also encourage other people so that then we do not leave out people because we are stereotyping. Then the other thing that we are doing is realizing when you must be doing it yourself. Like I said, even me myself, I say, now, our stereotyping them, self-reflection, because we are human beings. So the minute you understand that there's stereotyping, and after understanding that there's stereotyping, analyze and interrogate your scripts. You're able to say, I think now I have gone overboard, I've stereotyped. But you have to allow yourself that the maturity to be able to self-criticize and create room to self-criticize and to allow others. But also keeping an open mind, because when you're open, then you're taking in ideas and appreciating differences as you celebrate similarities, as UNESCO now would say. But the other thing also is research, because, and I heard Agaba talk about it, I have seen filmmakers come and they talk about an issue, and for you people who were with us when we were doing GIZ skits, I think you saw us fight, because I come from a journalism background. So I understand that you're not just going to give people information just for the sake of giving information. You're going to research, you're going to have to give them evidence-based or factual. And like Agaba said, if someone contests, you say, because I remember when we went and they started viewing the skits, and someone was telling me, do they? No, that doesn't happen. And I was saying, article, this says that, we do this and that, because I would sit and research and read and find out what does the law say about that, what do the people say about that. And research doesn't have to be only in the books. Talk to people, visit places, stay in places like the girl Agaba told us who went to the bar. How do you, Amulokole, start talking about a bar? Surely, does that make sense? You've never been there, you don't know how they relate. Go and find out, get those facts. So research is also critical, because if you do something and it is, of course, later I'll tell you how to avoid stereotyping someone even if it's a fact. But even if you bring it out but it's a fact, then you're covered, because you're not being biased. You're dealing with facts, and facts are facts. The problem is, how do you present the facts? As Mr. Kawesi indicated, it's what's the tone? Are you demeaning someone? Because you could like what Tony asked about, I now come and talk about it later. You can talk about female genital mutilation, but you do not have to demean. You can still inform, educate, and persuade, and dissuade them from doing that without demeaning them. And as a filmmaker, and a creative person, you have to have that and respect all your people. So then the other thing is, we are not traveled. And I had Agaba talk about it. I don't know from which context, but we need to learn to travel. And sometimes we don't have money, sometimes we do not have a budget. But if you look at people who are widely traveled, you see that the way they treat people is different. Like, I think I'll talk about politics a little bit. I think the thing about Museveni, Bobi Wine, is they've all been in communities where they are relating with a lot of people when he was in Tanzania, when he was with people who are doing, people who were struggling during the revolution. That exposes you and teaches you to handle, and whether you like Museveni or not, you will agree on one thing. He is a president who knows how to relate with everybody and can respect them. Of course, he is the one who said Vasoga start understanding at 45, which was very wrong, but he is also that person who understands. Now, Bobi Wine grew up in the ghetto, yeah? And the ghetto is that area where, like me, when I grew up, we grew up at the Lubiri, right? Barracks. I can speak a bit of Somali. I can speak a bit of Lutoro. I can speak a bit of Acholi. I can speak a bit of Ateso. So when I went in HSC and the school, there were Westerners and they were creating a Westerner group. Me, I just simply didn't fit in that. Why? Because for me, human beings were human beings. I like Westerners, but so do I like Acholis and Baganda and everybody. I consider myself a human being. Not that I am better or I don't have any stereotypes, but that kind of exposition helped me to have a liberal outlook. So if you grew up in Uganda, or grew up in Teso, or grew up in Toro, and you have never traveled anywhere, and you have never related with other people, you are going to think that everything you have been taught to believe is the best, because cultures will do it to themselves for survival. They will show that what they do is their best. You get shocked when you go and what you thought is a good culture is actually, from other people's perspective, negative. And when they explain, you appreciate that they are right. So you need to travel, you need to relate, you need to interact, you need to be open, and you need to know that what you know, your beliefs may not necessarily be the best. And how you judge or confirm that what you are affirmed in as a belief may not necessarily be the base is by researching. So, in Uganda, for instance, what are some of the types or the stereotypes we have? Because there are different ways of stereotyping. Can we hear? Because you see, can we hear some of the stereotypes we have? Quickly, because they gave me a few minutes. Yes, Tony? China Uganda techinyuma. Great, that's a stereotype. But China Uganda techinyuma? Okay, that's also a stereotype, but a positive one. Okay, please. Abaganda babbi. That is true, but are all Baganda thieves? Are Baganda thieves? Abaganda bagamba abanyakole babba ettaka. That's a stereotype, but it is a stereotype that exists, yes? Okay, so you see stereotypes, and the stereotype, the positive stereotype is abachiga siba, they are frank, they are honest, you understand? Okay, Tony, one more, and then we go. Okay, I'll come to you. A good Muganda is a dead one. Yeah, I think that might not be a stereotype because it is attributed to Obote. But, and some people may not have conceived it. Yeah, but it's stereotype. But okay, so now what I also want us to talk about, it's been said, I want to talk about the prevailing stereotypes, okay, that even filmmakers, because now you're looking for money, you sit and say, when I say this, I'll make money. Those prevailing stereotypes. You had your hand up. They're husband beaters, stereotypes, husband beaters, and you miss a beautiful, actually, woman. Yes, please. Abanyarwanda Benz. I wanted to say it, but thank you. Even when you go to marry, you say, oh, because oleso mukazi omunyarwanda. Ooh, tufudde. You understand? But I have met very many Rwandese who are not, who are not very kind with their things, not generous, you know. So it means that they are stereotypes. Then there are people who say Batoro don't say no to what? Omusajja tayangwa. But Elizabeth Bagaya refused to have an intimate relationship with Amin. That is why they refused to what? They demoted her as a minister. Isn't Shamutoro? Yes, so you as a filmmaker, we'll come back to that. Let me not jump the thing. Please, yes. Abakochi bali abantu. Can you imagine? Abakochi. Try them n'abaana bange. Do all bakochi eat? Are they cannibals? Abe bukunja. So all those things, right? Then there are these ones that, abasoga bachi. Let me name 10 basoga who are intelligent. Rebecca Kadaga. Musoga. Salamu Musumba. Muvawala Bank Governor. Chive Jinja Chirunda. Who? Specioza Kazibwe. The list is endless. And so you, as a filmmaker, what are you going to do about that? Trebon, show those ones, demystify, denounce, disprove, and that's where we are going. Hey. Yeah, so this one, I think I already talked about it because I talked about about effects of stereotypes. About 800,000 people were reported dead in the Rwanda genocide. Do you know why? Do you know why? Stereotypes. Stereotype. Of course, the Rwanda thing also has a bit of a reality. When I go to Rwanda and people say, don't say you are Mutusi, I say, come on, stop. I am a Mutusi because even when I am walking on the streets, someone will look at me and know I am Tusi. Just you look at me and you know when a Mutwa comes and look, and you can tell a Mutwa is a what? A Mutwa. Then it is possible to do Hutu, but of course now there is intermarriages. But people abused because there is an FM radio at the time. That contributed to the genocide, like mobilizing people to go, yeah? And then next door in Congo, look at what is happening. The video. Sorry, so they stopped. They were not showing. Hey, sorry. Maybe I just give you the video. Okay, anyway, the video that I'm going to show, you already saw it, and I was surprised when Agaba was also talking about it, like the Congo thing, like people cutting each other. It's been making rounds on social media. You've seen it, right? So I needed to have done that. Yes, because that's what I was trying to communicate earlier. Oh, sorry. Hallelujah. But it has come as a picture. Maybe that's why it won't play. Can we go to the video? Yeah, let's go to the video. I don't know what happened. Okay. So I can't say for sure that that video was taken where, like what came out on social media, which is that anybody who speaks Luganda and Kinyarwanda in Congo is being killed, right? So if people knew there, they would even understand that the government of the day feels uncomfortable with Buganda. Do you understand? So for you to get a person who is speaking Luganda, they have absolutely no connection to the decisions. They are not beneficiaries. I'm not saying our government benefits, so I'm not going to do political talk. But what I'm trying to explain is that when people are stereotyping, most of the times they are not even informed. Sometimes the biases are not informed, negative, lack basis. So probably whatever it is that the Congolese are based on to attack the Baganda speaking people or the Rwandese could probably be right or wrong. That's not my place. My place is that the people they are killing are very innocent people who went there probably to survive. You understand? People who are very innocent, who went there to survive, who might never meet the president or leaders, who might never benefit from the loot if they're worried about loot in Congo. So, but if someone goes to radio and says, Ugandans, not the Ugandan leadership and the Rwandese leadership, and I'm not blaming the Rwandese, because what I'm saying is I don't know the context. I am just telling you what was shared on social media, right? But if someone says that, then they have not understood the responsibility and the power that they yield when they have that microphone. They have no idea, or they know but don't understand that they cannot be responsible for the blood of those people simply because they came out and just made reckless announcements. And I've heard it even on radio during the Kabaka, was it 2009? 9-10, right? I don't like what followed in as far as gagging the media is concerned. But I have to say that some media people were very, very irresponsible in their remarks, because they would come and say, so now this and that, now we brought them to our land, now this and that, now so people are already fired up. People are broke. There are people who have nothing to lose. There are people who do not think, there are people who do not understand that there is a time when, and I'm not saying Mulindwa Muwonge was part of that, because Mulindwa Muwonge that time had left. But there was a time when people believed in Mulindwa Muwonge more than they believed in the president. So just by virtue of the fact that he had a microphone and people believed him, and he used to say, we know. If Mulindwa Muwonge had run for an election that time, he would have done what Bobby did. He didn't have those ambitions, and the times were different. But that's how much power you wield as a mass communicator. You could be theater, you could be television, you could be film, you could be radio. So you cannot take that lightly, because it can even lead to death when we say the consequences could be dark. So stepping into our power, and that is how we can help to deal with stereotypes, by stepping into our power. How do we step into our power? You cannot exercise power you don't know you have. When you don't know you wield a lot of power, you will never exercise it. You even get shocked. You say, hey, you do a man into, I don't know if it's true, but someone said, I think they were trying to make Bobby Wine unpopular. They said, Bobby Wine said, hey, never na Uganda basiru, unze Bobby, unze gwe bamatirant, unze nina amanyi we gatu. So I don't know if it is true, but what I'm saying that Ugandans shocked him by the power they vested in him. So the good thing is Bobby stepped into his power. Are you stepping into your power? Are you stepping into your power? My brother, you need to step into your power. I heard you talk to my brother Agaba, and you were saying, I even went, and today I'm not talking about distribution, but you said, I even sneaked in a line just to get money. Yeah? And it is okay to get money because business is what? Money. But for us in journalism, not that we don't do it. We have something called the professional prostitution. It is also not very good. Not that you exercised it. It depends on how we frame it. Muslims don't have stories to tell. They have stories to tell and they will support you because they are marginalized when it comes to art. Because it's not an area they have explored greatly. So instead of going where you may probably even be uncomfortable, because we are all creating markets, I hope UNESCO will organize another thing where now as filmmakers we have to talk about how do we create our markets. Because when you were saying, people love, which people? Can you go with your wife to watch a film of naked women? Your wife doesn't want to watch. You have decided to limit yourself to that market. Irene Kulabako doesn't show films. I'm sure you may never even have watched Irene Kulabako's film. But she makes films. Let's also discuss market. Let's also understand our power and step into our power whereby we can teach people. We can teach the audience as the audience. We are the ones, we are the reason the audience degenerated. We are responsible. Maybe not us, maybe the people who came before us, maybe also allowing, permitting content just to go on the airwaves, just like that, and people then started. But when someone wants to see a naked woman and a half-naked woman, as a director doing that, are you happy with yourself? Like, because you're also not exposing. Because if you don't want your daughter to show her breasts, why are you showing your daughter's other breasts? Because that's what I sometimes tell. Because for me, it's okay if I can show my daughter's breasts. Eh? And I'm sorry to talk about my brother. I don't want you to think, Bambi, I'm going for you. I'm going for all of us, even me. Eh? It's just that you asked a question we all have in our minds. I always ask men, if marrying is so good, why is it that your brother, when your sister is getting married, you feel hurt most? Because you know what you've been doing to other people's daughters is going to be done to you. The only person who doesn't celebrate when you're young and you get a boyfriend is your brother. Your sister will celebrate. But your brother knows what he has been doing to other people's daughters, so they are upset. So now that I talk about my brother, I'll go back, because you talked about the generalization, but there are some stereotypes I forgot to talk about, and yet you were not looking at the screen. Gender stereotypes. As filmmakers, we have gender stereotypes and creators, because people want to see women in a certain way. And by the way, for me, I do not have a problem if someone is stereotyping but has understood that they are stereotyping and can defend that. You understand? Because I have seen people who have put women in the domestic and said they should be there and stay there and be barefooted. Now, for me, I don't allow that. I don't subscribe to that. But there are people who can defend and say that the fact that women went in the public has led to the breakdown of the family. I don't think that that is the sole reason, because I think each sex has a role to play. But at least that person says that's why they are taking that what? Position. But for you to go and stereotype without even having a position and thinking through it is where the problem is. So there is tribal stereotypes, there is gender stereotypes. And when we talk about gender, we usually think it is only women. But even men are stereotyped. You understand? We say men don't cry. But why shouldn't men cry? Yeah, they don't have emotions. Yeah? We present this man in a very artificial way, and it creates a lot of violence, is partly because men are not allowed to express themselves. Yeah? But let us allow men to express themselves. No, it's okay. Let us think through why we are allowing men. Let me tell you one of the films I like most. For me, one of my favorite Ugandan films, not that the ones I've not mentioned I don't like, but one of my favorite Ugandan films is a film by Nisha Kalema. Do you understand? For me, Nisha Kalema created a man I want. That man was Ugandan. He didn't have even a tribe. Meaning that we can do the things we want. We can create people. That is now influence. If people do similar films like that and take them to young people, whether you want it or not, you're going to have a different man in future. Because the young men now have understood that there is a man like that, and that's who Ugandan women want. But now, the man who is being created is majorly created by men and how they want to treat us. And also us, we are there keeping quiet about it. Let us create our own men and put them there and deal with these ones and also make sure that the young ones come. But do you know there are also men who can create those men? And even the women. I tell the problem is the women are creating women men want. They are not creating women, the women they want to be. Yeah? We are the ones educating children. We are the ones, and then every time they are showing us, they are not showing those roles. Yeah? We are educating, we are leaders, we are doing what? The only women they are showing are those ones. And when he said that, and you know, when you show the ghetto, they say we want to see the ghetto, and he's right. But where is he showing his films? Where? In the ghetto. Is the ghetto bad to show films? No. But how are you helping the ghetto person aspire to become better, a better person, even if they're in the ghetto and you have reflected the ghetto? That ghetto person might relate with that person, but they also want to become the person who is there. How does that person get from the ghetto to there? Those are stories they also want to see, as the same way they also want to see. And even the person who is, I remember I have a friend called Remy, and I was walking with her. And then she asked Jaribu. And I told her, Jaribu. Then she said, now, when was Jaribu, that is a meal for people. What do you mean? Then I explained that that man you see there is a father. Every time you ask Jaribu, you are taking away a chikumicha fees woman. Why was I able to know? Because for me, my mother was there. Not very rich. She's not a rich woman. But she had a little more money than most of the people. So when it was in Senene period, those people would come to my mother to borrow money. There was a guy called Kalori who used to come for dinners, and he would say that, City Council, so me, I grew up relating, because when City Council would go for Kalori, and he loses his dinners running, the children would be affected. So I would attach a face of this child to the actions. And it doesn't mean that I say that you should do that, but I also have a better understanding of why City Council probably needs to do something about it, in as much as Kaloli also needs to follow the law. So a person who is in Kololo, Remy, when I explained to Remy, Remy said, Sarah, you have made me so guilty. I will never, ever take Jaribu. And by the way, Remy now doesn't take Jaribu. You understand? But Remy, in her comfort world, she's Mwanga, Daudi Chwa's granddaughter, has never understood that this Kanyewa, on the spoon that she keeps asking, takes away food from this. So as a storyteller, that is your role, to balance these things and talk about them, and talk about them in a manner that builds, that unites. Because I could also have told Remy, you understand? Eh? But I had to explain. That is the same way you have to visually help people interpret our society visually, help people deal with their negative, the negative aspects of their characters or conducts. Oh, sorry. And my battery is running low. Sorry. If I kindly help me.
And the time is running low.
And time is running low. I'm concluding. So I'm just going to run through. But you know you ate into my time, eh? Do you remember that? Thank you. It has even gone off. Please bear with me. Sorry. I'll need
The computer is off.
Yeah, it went off.
Can
And
you
I have
conclude
like 4,
screen?
5 slides. Where was I? What was I talking about? Because I can get it from my head. No, but Jaribu was from the extract of stepping into our power. Thank you very much. Yeah, so first of all, you need to recognize what is your power. Then you need to realize how are you going to use that power. So I was kind of giving examples of how we can step into our power after we recognize what our power is. It has come on. Thank you. So I was also saying, I already talked about this, that we are more than entertainment. Yes, we can entertain. Yes, we can do business, but it is always important that we weigh the consequences or the results or the impact of our action or the story that we are telling. What is it that it's going to do? We have the power to shape and inform perceptions. I already talked about it. So that's part of our power, that we are going to go and change perception. If someone is a thief and you show this other person who is working, if people think Basoga or Banyaranda women are this, and you show that, oh, Banyaranda women can also do that. If you show the parents, what's going on? So part of also stepping into our power is better representation. Better representation of the characters, yeah? Because are we going to say, it's going to come in another slide. So role of a filmmaker, theater. So first of all, we are custodians of our culture. So how are we custodians of our culture? We are custodians of our culture, but can we be custodians of something that we do not understand? First of all, the problem is we have a tendency of understanding culture to be tradition. There's a difference between tradition and culture. There are some traditions that we have. Let me say, what are some of the traditions we can talk about? It is an artist's tradition to bring our owns who die there, and we celebrate them. Eh? It is our culture, but it's also now our tradition. People who will come 10 years from now or 50 years will say, the tradition of artists is that when an artist dies, but it is a tradition we have created, and it's also our culture. But culture is a way of life. So that's why when you say, for instance, Amusoga, there are some people who are not Basoga, they are Banakampala. Their culture is strictly Banakampala because they are informed by their experiences, because culture is a way of life. So when you say that, okay, let us be custodians of our culture, first of all, we want to promote good cultures. We want to promote good values. We also want to talk about the bad things that we have in our society, provided they do not demean or degrade other people. So we have to find ways of coming out with that. But the other thing that we have to do also as custodians of our culture is to document the culture, because it keeps first of all, loosening, we lose it, and we are under imperial attack, imperialism, culture imperialism. Culture imperialism, which is exported because of the films we watch, the music we listen to. And I'm not saying that, hey, let's close out other music, but also when you understand who you are, who you want to talk to, the aspirations you have, the aspirations of your people, then you're able to deal with it. I do not want for me to do Wall Street deals. I want to do, if I'm doing a film about survival, I want to talk about Amuna Kampala who lives home and they don't have a coin, and they come and kuyiya as a father or mother who has to go back and put food on the table. Let me talk about that story, because the Wall Street and the big monies, my audience might not even understand them. Although there are certain parts of that audience that I also want to grow. So which audience are you communicating to? Which virtues of that culture? And I've told people, I have seen corporate men refusing to pay fees. I said, shut up, you are ashamed. Because there are people who are wheelbarrow pushers, who collect money and go back home and pay fees for their children. They will celebrate those people, talk about those people. If there is a father, there is no Mutoro, Munyoro, Muganda, Munyankole, Muchori father who doesn't pay fees. Of course, someone can say, because we are informed by our experiences, that an Atesot man or a Karamojong man, when they pay dowry, they have already paid the woman who will work. And maybe you want to talk about that. Probably talk about it without demeaning that culture. But also talk about the day-to-day person and the things that they have to hustle with, and communicate and celebrate that culture. Culture cannot be tradition. So when we are dealing with our issues and we say, you are custodians, you're promoting, you also have to look at the new culture, the tradition, the issues, the virtues, the values, and all those things are very different, and I cannot talk about them just right now when I have a few minutes. Denouncing stereotypes, I already talked about it. Good representation and celebration of our culture. Showcasing things that are different, but people appreciating that it is okay for people to be different from us, as long as it's not harming anybody. Then there's this thing someone was talking about, artistic freedom, artistic license. As an artist, I have the freedom to say that freedom comes with responsibility. So if you have that freedom, how do you use it so that it does not affect others? Then exposing stereotypes for common good. That is what Tony was talking about, that if I'm talking about female genital mutilation, it is for common good. Why shouldn't I talk about it? Yet it's a virtue. But I think Mr. Kawe said, Daniel dealt with it very well. You can still talk about it, denounce it without demeaning the people, and you promote the good virtues and showcase, for instance, the effects of female genital mutilation. We all have a role to play as filmmakers. I think I've alluded to the roles we have to play. I think training institutions, I don't know if there are training institutions here, but for us we do training of filmmaking. And one of the things that we do that people sometimes find boring is film studies, because there's somebody called Chande who does our introduction to film. He does it because there's a difference between film production and film. Yeah, film studies and film theories. Because when you're a filmmaker, you understand, you see the people in the 60s are filmmakers or writers. If you look at Ngugi wa Thiong'o, for people who did literature here, that person, even if you watch Christopher Muchini, those people, it seems they've understood their role sometimes better than the people who are doing stories today, because they know that they have a role to play. At the time, the dynamics then were for independence. So they spoke to the African about how do we get rid of the colonizer, yeah? How do we do our struggles, how do we claim back our country, our whatever. So today we have issues, we have corruption, we have violence, we have insecurity, and those are issues we need to deal with. They are cultural issues. Security can be a cultural issue. Corruption can be a cultural issue and all that. But how do you present it? Are you going to say Banyankole are corrupt? Mzee Kirindi is one of the Banyankole I know who are not corrupt. When you go to Ankole, Banyankole are going to tell you that we are not corrupt, we don't know where that money goes. You understand? But we have already decided to stereotype, and there is an anti-Western sentiment. Are we going to also help extend that in society as filmmakers? Have we thought about the impact of that? The people who have exhibition venues, I think Daniel was also talking about that if it's a National Culture Center, before when you would bring a play, National Culture Center will say rehearse that play. So if the play is not in tandem with our culture, it is putting down another tribe, it is putting down another gender, it is going to create, they shouldn't play it. And that is a responsibility. That's why I'm saying that in as much as filmmaking, we all have a role to play. So that's where policy comes in. But not policy that is supposed to protect a government of the day, but policy that is supposed to protect public interest. UNCC, I hope they're here. When they run something about government, they run, they are worried. I have seen people making out on TV, like doing things you can't do at 6 p.m. in front of us, and I'm like, where is UCC? For them, as long as you have not talked about government, then that's okay. But what do our cultures say? Because the cultural aspirations of our people are incorporated in the UCC mandate, and they should be able to push for them. So they have a role to play as policymakers, as ministries, as us, as training institutions, because all the training institutions, when I go and look at their curricula, they are teaching film production, but they have not taught a filmmaker what are the dynamics. What can you do to emancipate the mind? You see, filmmakers don't think it is their business to emancipate the minds of our people, to promote our culture, to be advocates of our culture, to promote our goods. We are wearing jeans, we are doing what? The Nigerians have succeeded now in making Nigerians respectable. They did it through film. I am sure it's a conscious effort. I don't want to see mucus in a film, because I have gone, there's a time in 2005 I was in Sweden, and a girl was showing me how to carry a cat in a supermarket. Because for her, the stories she sees on TV are Connie, Northern War, those times, it was still ripe. So I kept quiet. So she's called Lena. About 6 years ago, no, about 8, 10 years ago, she came and she, of course, I had to take her to game and whatever. She was in shock, because I think she even expected to find lions at the airport. So if we also add to that, perpetuate those, then we are not doing justice to ourselves, even if we are saying that we want to make, I'm not saying that those are the only films that make money, but you see, it's also important to think through. We know that we eat chips, we know that they have affected our the lifestyle now. We have lifestyle diseases. That is courtesy of the films we watch, because now we want to eat burgers, we want to eat, and we are all quiet. We are not doing anything about that. The other thing we can do is celebrate our heroes. You understand? I want to hail the media. During COVID, there was a war to stop COVID, which the world needed, which could have made income for us. Even me, myself, who is telling you, I am guilty. How come I have not yet done a film, and me, I'm Native Voices, about that guy who did COVID? We cure fibroids. Why haven't we done that? How does that mean in terms of income? Because it's consumption. The West lets you have cheap films on your TVs, makes you have, and you think, pirates. They want you to watch because they know it is free marketing. That is why they are not even bothered. Even if you report, they made their money and now are okay. And this is not a war against the West. But let us also position ourselves to understand that we have a role to play, and our role is bigger than only entertainment. The audience can be built. The audience can rebuke, but we can also build the audience. We have created this audience. The people who are showing the things they are showing on TV have created. We can also have our say, and you'll be surprised. There's an audience. Another time we shall talk about how to market and meet the audience and persuade the audience and interest the audience and understand, because before you do a film, how do you do a film whose target audience you don't understand? Because if you understand the target audience, then you're not going to come here and say that the naked, there are people who love naked, there are people who want religious, there are people, let's also go for all of them, but also let's own our responsibility and have the power. And I want to say that the best way, I said the denounce, so I said it is not enough to ignore and disprove these stereotypes. To create a better future for all of us, the different genders and generations to come, we must play our part in eliminating stereotypes. And we do that by celebrating the people who are being put down, denouncing those stereotypes, and taking a position and saying no to them. And and doing the opposite and bringing out and making people appreciate difference and people who are different from them. So the best way filmmakers, theater directors, and our artists, musicians, everybody can do to get rid of the stereotypes is to empower tribes that are underlooked, create heroes and heroines out of those tribes, out of those genders, out of those places, out of those things, and make people compassionate, make those people compassionate. Show a Musoga who is struggling. Those Basoga women are always digging 1 acre, 12 children, but they should also stop 12 children. But you can also talk about it without putting them down. You understand? Eh? But show the effects of having many children without denouncing a particular tribe. But show the hardworking men and women of those tribes, the love they have, what they do to their children, for their people, for their communities. And I think I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for taking us through and giving us so many.
Did I pass the summary?
And giving us so many examples from which we've learned. Members, you've seen that stereotypes are not good. They hurt. You get it? But we've also learned that when we do films with content of stereotypes, we are duplicating, we are spreading, we are entrenching. You get it? And we need to put an end to this. We are the ones who can do it, and I'm sure we can do it. Members, time is not on our side. Is it a question? Okay, 2 questions. Then the others will be handled as we discuss the way forward. Yes, please. One from you, another one from?
Noba ne byebirooza nti olw'okuba muli welcoming ne mugenda awala naye omuntu omu n'akulabula nti abantu abo bo ate tebakola ki bwe kityo gwe nogaba bugambye that is your type simanya biki n'otuukeyo ne bakola ekizibu awalala waliwo issue y'okubeera nga kale bakuwoninga ekyasenga nzanya firimu nga ndi tugeze zanya history gone are the days Abanyarwanda oba baki balaalo could come to Buganda nga bakola emirimu ng'egyokulima kulunda nte kati olwawo embeera nzanya firimu nga history nga ndaze omulaalo ng'akola obulaalo bwe tebakirabe bulala naye ng'ate nzanya history how these people came into Buganda. Then tulinayo abalala abamu nga behaviors ezimu bazoogerako ogeza nga kyobadde ekyokwata ng'abantu bwe mutaboogerako at times ate tebakyuka. Many people bakyusa olw'okuba tubalaze nti bannange ng'era bw'okyogeddeko awo amange sitaasi waliwo abayinza okubeera nga babaddemu nga ekitegeeza kibi. Kale ebintu ebisatu simanyi oba obyogerako ki.
Yes, second question. I think there is no any other. Please, we will discuss the rest.
Okay, thank you. So I think
someone is here.
Thank you for the presentation. Yes, talking about stereotyping. Basically, you've been talking about stereotyping by the local content, talking about film producers, okay, promoting stereotypes. But there's this other stereotyping which is basically international. Sometimes you go on social media, you see 10 reasons you should not visit Uganda. Worst countries in the world you should not visit. And my question is this: from your experience, how do you undo such?
Thank you very much. I think I'll start with Solomon. Solomon in Subuga is my koja, is my uncle. My mother is from Mamba. I'm not stereotyping. It is a fact, but I'm doing positive discrimination. So first of all, the motive, the tone. In film, there's something called the tone. You understand? What tone are you talking about? Because it's also important. Like for me, I come from a journalism background. And what I would like to do actually is I would like to do historical films. But for me, when I am doing a film about Amulalo, with what intention? Am I showing these people used Bajanga Balalo? Because that has also been there. Kakati bebaina. Ochitegera. That one might be right, but it might have, it is a fact. But it may probably have repercussions. Because it will let other people say, these people stole us, they did what, maybe it will promote the enmity. And someone from that perspective might see it as, is it also a historical film? Is it epic? Is it an epic story? Or you wanted to contextualize and put, because you see we cannot limit your creativity. But for me, I'm just appealing to your conscience. If you are telling a story, think through. And what tone? Is it a fact that when Rwandese people came, they were actually, because those people, when they came from Rwanda, they were kings, princes, and everything, but they came here. My grandmother, she was a lead stereotyping person and discriminative. I sit back and I say, if my grandmother was the one to receive the people from Buganda, how would she have handled it? Because I remember there is a time she got lost. I was told of a story. I don't know if it's true, but there's a place called Kabale Kamugole. And if you say you're lost, you will really get lost. So whether it's true or not, I don't know, but she really got lost. But she would find people, but for her, my grandmother was related distantly to the king. So she was looking at these people. Remember, she's the refugee. This is a society that has received her. Her husband was not like that, but for her, she was like that. For those people were too low for her to talk to. This is a refugee now. She got lost for a whole day. They had to go and look for her. And I said, this grandmother of mine. So they came when they were, but the fact is they came here and had to work. But that made them better people. In as much as there could be people who stole, there are people who worked. When in 94 after the war, yeah, Mulago didn't have many doctors because Rwandese had gone back to their country and they had doctors, and these people sat down their children and told them work, study, do this and that. But those are facts that may not come out. But it depends on how you're going to tell a story. I'm not going to tell you how to tell a story. I'm only going to say stereotyping is when you characterize, generalize characters of people based on a few, or what you hear about them, or what you know about them, usually with negative connotations. So if they are not negative, if they are not going to have a side effect on, it's not going to affect anybody, maybe it's not a problem. But at the same time, we are also people, and we have somewhere we are coming from, and probably we want to talk about it. Maybe there are people who want to talk about the people who are owning property now. Where did they get it? It's a real question, and it should be answered. And for me as a documentarian, I'm not scared to talk about it. Where did that money come from? But it's not a conversation for today. I just want us to understand, because when you understand what is stereotyping, then you can talk about subjects without fear or favor. Yeah, thank you. So I'll go to this question also. So now, it is true that Uganda is a dangerous place now. There are accidents, there are thieves, there are a lot of things, right? But I'm a Ugandan. I am not going to say that. But it does not mean I should keep quiet and let the lives of people continue. So probably I'll never say that Uganda is a dangerous place to be. But probably I'll play my role and go and say that, what are you doing, what are the measures and whatever. And when a video like that comes out, I'll counter it from a journalistic perspective. For me, I think even another storyteller, fictitious or whatever, will find ways of showing the beautiful Uganda, the whatever that someone says, I don't care how dangerous it is, I'm going to Uganda. But from a journalistic point of view, I'm going to show the measures that are being taken to safeguard the roads, the traffic rules, what is being done. But I am also not going to lie. Now me, I will not lie that Uganda is safe. I will say I would say, while there are these accidents which can happen anywhere and whatever, the Uganda government has stepped up measures to do blah, blah, you know those things. So let us not run away from facts, but also we have a responsibility. But our power comes with responsibility, and we also should protect others, whether they are Ugandan or not, because even a foreigner dying here, it is wrong. So let us also deal with part of the stories we need to talk about. It is a bad Ugandan culture to start driving when you have never gone to a driving school, to drive recklessly. That is our today. Let's talk about these things. People are dying, it's affecting us. Let us confront and interrogate those things. And I am telling you, you might see bad driving as a bad film where there is no subject. You create it and see if you want to get a fool. And also when we are looking at who to bring stories to tell about, have you ever done a story about taxis? How many taxis will not work on Sunday or borders? So we need to create our market by understanding our society, studying those people we are going to talk about. Then we won't have a fear of these people will not come, because did we think through the audience we want to go to? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much, our dear participants. I would like now to invite Dominic to do his presentation in about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Sorry I took long and probably ate into your time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sarah, for that. I think you have spoken for us all. Maybe that's the best way to do it. As you were saying, you are sorry, but I think you have spoken for us all. Because ideally, ideally, you have done all the work. So maybe just I'll touch a few areas. Could be issue of semantics, could be issue of how they put this in. So I don't need the.
This is enough?
You connect it. So basically, I think there are about maybe 4 or 5 things. Quickly, I'll just summarize. My topic was, I think, role of stakeholders, and then how we can eliminate. Now, this has come through from Mr. Gaba's presentation, and then also from Madam Sarah's presentation. And the beauty they had is that they are speaking from real life experience. I have liked the way Sarah was giving us her personal experience and sharing it with us. I think that made it more moving. Now I'm going to depart from that because mine is not, I am not a film person, I'm not in that area. So I look at about 3 areas. One is based on what we can do. There are some instruments, just a reminder.
I wanted to say on the flash, the people live streaming.
Live streaming, okay. Yeah, so the first thing, of course, is this big animal called a stereotype. It is true, and when you look at the thing, it's just spreading. Mr. Gaba talked about, no, even right from the beginning, Amos talked about it, Mr. Gaba talked about it, and this has talked about it. The other thing which came very clear is that sometimes it depends, as he mentioned, the positive and negative. You have had situations where we use words like conventional. That could also be, say we're not using the conventional or a standard way. Now, who tells you this is a standard? So stereotyping sometimes can be a type of standard way people are thinking. The way people, we normally do it like this, Or we normally look at them like this. So that becomes a conventional thing. It's like a standard, like a norm. Then the opposite becomes better. The opposite of the norm. What people have believed to be maybe like a what people have looked at as what could be norm, okay? It's a conventional way. You know, this is the way it is. This is the standard. Just like the examples being given, the way you are referring to people. Within some communities, it has become a standard. The way you look at a particular ethnic group, it's a standard way of thinking. And then we come to accept it the way it is. Because that is the standard. That's a conventional way. Okay? So then now we have to get out of that. So that is another way you can think about stereotyping. So you are kind of compartmentalizing. You are putting, use the word categorizing. But because the community around us think like that, you have a tag, a particular label. Okay? And it's until when that is happening, and you think otherwise, then you become unconventional. You become like a, and that is now what is original. Like he was saying, that they say these people are like this. That is the standard. But for me, I don't believe it. So you now depart from there, and you go back to that original thing. So that is the other point I want to make. And maybe the other word which has not come out is the word prejudice. That is the big word. And that is it, actually. It's the basis of stereotyping. The moment you have prejudice in your mind, you have bias, whatever happens, that is the root of the whole thing. And so that is the kind of thing which goes about all this. Then, of course, is it to do with race, with ethnicity, that particular prejudice? Is it with the ability, a socioeconomic status, and so on? The thing is, what we can talk of negativity, and that is of concern. But you can have a situation where somebody, an individual, may be aware that this is something bad, is a stereotype, but does not believe in it. I think she gave us a very good example. The person knows, yes, there is a stereotype here, but the person doesn't believe in it. So that kind of mental situation, you know this is a stereotype, but do you believe in it? Because that is what makes the problem. The fact that there are stereotypes there may not be a problem if you don't believe in it. Because then you as a journalist or as a filmmaker, you will act differently. But if you also believe in it, that is now when it becomes a problem. So there are those who do not believe, yet this thing is within the environment. But they themselves might experience the negativity. So it is what they can call implicit. Implicit means it is really implied. You are aware. I mean, you are unaware. There are those who are not aware that there is a problem of stereotype here, and that is dangerous. If you are not aware that actually this kind of belief, this kind of attitude, this kind of talk is a stereotype, if you are not aware, then that is a bit dangerous for you as a film maker or a producer. So that is where it becomes a problem. But then there is what we call the exploit, which is expressed, which is all over the place. You can even tell, you feel it. That is at least somebody. If you're a conscious person who wants to not to go into that area, this is something you can do something about. So that is again something which we should be able to. And then of course the main thing at it is the issue of diversity. Diversity due to culture, due to all these backgrounds. It's the thing. Why do people go into this kind of thing is because of diversity. And yet, in nature, has nature been for uniformity? Just think about it. Nature has never been for uniformity. Nature has always been for diversity. Even if you look at the Quran, Even if you think about our environment, you will never see. By the way, is that even when you hold your hands like that, you will not see an exact camera copy of it. Something is wrong. This finger here, you look closely, you see some difference. So nature prefers and actually exists best with diversity. And so where you have you desire uniformity, you desire of your own kind, there's something wrong, because it's unnatural. If you hate diversity, it's unnatural. If you love diversity, that is the natural way. And that is what exists. Now, from our perspective, and that is what we have been saying, we have got very many instruments which are there to guide us. And these instruments say that whatever is there, whether it is in art, literature, lifestyle, living value systems, tradition, everything, spiritual, material, and so on, these have all been compiled together to guide us. So as we are trying to fight this, there are instruments, there are some reference points for us to guide us, so that we have got the compass of how to do and what is the right thing to do and what is not the right thing to do. At least for Sarah, she was lucky that she could even question the mother. That's very good. I think you were gifted. But some people need to get some reference material to be able to ask the questions you were asking. And that's why we have these instruments to guide us. So the issue of diversity is very important and is something that we must go by. So our challenge, therefore, the main thing which is a challenge, is how do we limit the negative consequences? There is, of course, some people blame globalization for this. That is because stereotype is becoming more because of globalization. But then others are saying, no, globalization is it better actually because it's making us feel like we are one village. We are together. We are looking at the common humanity. And so that is the kind of thing we need to try to look at. I have mentioned issues of rural-urban exodus, and again, I'm glad the previous speaker gave a lot of examples of rural-urban settings. So these are the things which influence us, like he was talking about the historical things, trying to go into that history and bring the history out, whether it is the tradition related and so on. You go into the root of that. It informs and it also explains. But what is important, what we can run away from, is that this thing is a reality, it is growing, and because of fight for resources, because of the sense of belonging, it is always there. The diversity issue is growing. So we get these issues of intolerance. It always rears its ugly head. And now, they have even now the issue of colonialism, which I think Amos mentioned and all of that. Our minds, our school system and our education systems. And that was a very good example somebody was giving that. Those days you could be, you are born somewhere at the extreme, maybe northeastern part, but you end up studying in the extreme southwestern part. So you know the whole country. Like Sarah was lucky for us, you had that diversity of people she was mixing with. But some people are not lucky. I stay in what I call Chiagwe, some of you don't know. If you are born there in a small village of Kasangarabi like me who stay that side, your nursery is there, and then the primary is there, the secondary is there, everything is there. Then the university you move to UCU, not even now. What type of Ugandan are you? Yes. So you are look the way you look at. So every other person outside is a stranger. And that is the basis on which we begin to build this stereotype. And so when you look at it in our setting, it's very unfortunate that we were building the country, trying to get rid of this, than now we are trying to actually entrench, make it worse by the type of system now, the school system, everything together. For other reasons, when we were growing, they say, if you always eat your mother's food, you think your mother is the best cook. But should you one time taste the food from another mother somewhere, somebody's mother, your friend's mother, then you begin to, your eyes will open. kumbe there are other better cooks than your mother. So that is the kind of thing that is a problem. And so as a producer, how do we fight that? How do we get rid of that? As a film producer, is there a way, for example, having this convergence of views that race we need to safeguard? Where diversity occurs, we must all be defenders of diversity. We must all defend diversity. And we should know that not one approach is the best. There are always variety of approaches to do things. And the challenges are also diverse. Everything is diverse. And that is where the richness of humanity is. The good thing, again, I've put here, now, like UNESCO is trying to push global citizenship education. That even if you are unfortunate, everything was in your village, from the nursery up to universities in your village, now you need to be exposed to global citizenship education, where you look at yourself as a global citizen, not only as a citizen of that village where you went to. So now these are the kind of things which we need to bring out in our film schools, in our production settings, and whatever we do. That is the way we can get out of this. But then also internationally, this concept of the common heritage, which is something that we must also look at, because humanity is humanity anyway, regardless of whatever comes on. Whether it is the culture, it has its dignity, it has its value. Whether it is a people, they have rights and duties. Whether it's the cultures, they belong to mankind, not from any other world. So that is the kind of thing. And we also continue emphasizing the work UNESCO has done in this regard. The emphasis on unity in diversity and fostering capacity for shared enjoyment of universal culture. The issue of intellectual and moral solidarity, now like you producers, is something like that. And I like Sarah was talking of ignorance, which is also the basis of the whole thing. If you are ignorant of other people's culture, other people's way of life, other people's values, then you become the worst stereotype person who promotes that, the worst prejudice person. So we need to combat ignorance and prejudice. And prejudice is something which is important. I'm trying to also give you this as people who are producers. At a continental level, there is also emphasis on diversity, cultural diversity, which is the basis for unity. And that all of these things which bring a conflict, like the pictures we saw, there is a way we can reduce it if there is a deliberate integration, a deliberate embracing of universal values, whether it is in terms of languages or whether it is through trying to preserve whatever we have, and look at other people's creations as something which is good. So we must have sense of national identity, for example, if we are talking as a country, whether it is in terms of the various things we do, the products we make. We must have specific initiatives that can help us to promote harmony, to be able to remain harmonious. So I have looked at all of this as the factors underlying. They are like us stakeholders. If we can have some of these, your empathy means, I think, trying to put yourself in the other person. Empathy about other people's cultures, other genders. If you're a male, then put yourself in a female situation as you are producing something, or somebody of a lower socioeconomic status. Trust, relationships with those who are different from you. Don't always want to be with those of your likeness. Always aspire in the other way. Awareness, cultural awareness, and awareness of other people's values. And then discuss diversities. Try to have merit. Assess people on their own merit. Not just based on the fact that if it is that one from the other side, or if these ones, no. Each person has got merit. So merit-based assessment, but also growth of mindset, incorporating other people's views, being responsive, And also love for differing opinions, love for differing ideas, love for differing perspectives. Then being also mindful, being reflective of other people's views and other people's values. And then when you are picking text or selecting or producing whatever you want to produce, make sure that they are sensitive to value culture, sensitive to responsive. But then there is the one usefulness. I don't know where you must be useful all the time. Make sure that the product you have, provided of course depends on the audience you are targeting. But if the audience is mixed, make sure it is inclusive. It has a sense that everybody can identify with it. Even the one who belongs in another background can identify with it. So that you are able to get what you want. So I think those are the things. So in conclusion, we have got these declarations which UNESCO has headed in person declaration for cultural diversity, the one for the standard instruments. So all these are there to guide us in order to get out of it. So we are not clueless. They are clues and we have best instruments that you can get. So what and others called research. I've said there, please, we must always be able to compile, collect information, okay? And then disseminate the data, statistics. And again, UNESCO has a framework for that. We should develop methodologies and tools which are really, you know, which are not promoting prejudice, but which are they can be able to be used by others and can be embraced, and they're appropriate and all-inclusive. We need to deliberately cultivate at our institutional level, because some of you are in institutions, some of you are running individual things. So institutional and individual values, especially within our film industry, that we could try to impart the various values I've mentioned earlier, and then also try to be, finally here, seek for capacity building, seek for more information, and what we call unlearn the prejudice. If we already prejudice and we suffer from this, we should be able to reflect and say, no, how can I get out of this frame of mind? Okay? How do I learn better things than any throw away this one which is not okay? So I think these are just the few things. I hope, Dan, I have lived within your 5 minutes. These are the things I'm just trying to emphasize in the sense of what has been said. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dominic, for first of all working within the time, but also for making us reflect on other things that are related to this. Yes, since somebody has a question, let's take one question, then we go into the final.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Dominic. You talked about creating a national identity. I would pose this question for the Uganda's case. We all know that Uganda is one of the most ethnic countries around the globe. So how best can we create a national identity when we all know, or in our families from our different tribes or settings, we think my culture is better than the other, what? So how can we create that general uniformity, rather national identity in our works? Yet we should preserve each and everybody's culture. Thank you.
Okay, any other person? Sir, can you first help me answer that? Because I have more practical experiences than I
in my presentation, thank you very much for passing it over, and thank you very much for the presentation. I picked a lot and I need to learn summary, so let me not do more thanking. So we've been discussing, because Uganda has 65 indigenous groups. Now that's huge, yeah? But at the same time, we have a lot of commonalities, right? as filmmakers, and that's when we talk about positive discrimination. First of all, the role that we need to play, especially now, we have a role that we might not realize, artists, musicians, filmmakers, the media, because people are very angry, not hungry, but angry. They are also hungry and angry. And the good thing is that we have 65 indigenous groups, like different groups. Then the other thing is, I have recently been hearing about Buganda being discriminatory. I won't say they are or not, but the one thing is they are very embracing and welcoming. So there are very many people here that it would be very difficult to just start a civil war, because the person you are telling to do something is already from that culture and you probably don't know. But we have an urgent role to play in national reconciliation and the creation of Project Uganda, because Project Uganda is a Muzungu project. We were colonized and they got different people and bundled them together. But it is now a reality that we can't distance ourselves from, because if you wake up and you say, let Ugandans go, each Ugandan, there are stakes here for everybody, right? And so what are some of the things that we need to do? And we need to identify those things we celebrate as Ugandans. And there are things that happen and I say, yeah. So there is during Heroes Day, there's this guy who did the Mputa. I don't know if you saw that on WhatsApp. He's Mike something, there's a musician, but he's the father. He was a scientist. So on Heroes Day, they were celebrating him and sharing on WhatsApp that he went to the US and got certain eggs and mixed them with tilapia and brought Mputa. And now Mputa is a species that Chinese are here and they don't want us to even eat. But that's not the story. The story is that someone in this context created Mputa and we all celebrate it. And I saw people who now don't like Baganda say, Ugandan. Then people who don't like whatever. If a Munyankole goes and we score goals there and it is a Munyankole who has won, people will forget that they are Banyankole who steal. You understand? I'm not saying Banyankole are thieves, but it's the general belief, stereotype again. So as filmmakers, what are those some of those things we want to create and make Ugandan? Because even Kenya has different tribes, but they have decided to promote themselves as Kenyans. The language has helped them. If you live here and you go, maybe in Karamoja you'll find people speaking Lugisu because of the Mbale influence. But even if you go to the park in Kabale, people are speaking Luganda. That is a commonality that we could promote. I don't have time. Let me quickly say, okay, conclude. So let us identify, we are hospitable, we are loving people, we have nice food, we are warm. So let's create people. It is going to be us who are going to identify virtues that we are going to use and those things that can bound us together. But yes, there are things that can say Ugandans are like this. And the beautiful country and many things. I hope I've attempted to answer it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. Actually, Sarah is referring to the national value system, which is talked about in Vision 2040.
Oh, it's
yeah, it is. So we should all aspire towards that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, maybe just one sentence. Yeah, one or two sentences. Say that. Thank you very much for that. And I knew she's best placed to do that because of the experience he has shared with us. That question is actually the reason we are here together. I have said we are using diversity of approaches, very many approaches. This is one of them. And one of the, of course, now for us coming from UNESCO's background of building peace, trying to make sure that using the power of reasoning or power of thinking, the intellectual capacity, we construct, okay? We construct harmony in society. And these are small things, but with this gathering here, if we agree at the end of this that each of us has a role to play, that makes a difference. Because each of you has a lot of influence. You have people who watch your films, no? Yes. So now you influence them through the film. If you are teachers here, you influence your students through the knowledge we impart to them. Now, each of that it goes a long way in imparting, in transmitting this commonality that we want to give the country. That people should see this is it. So we are either through the schools, through the various companies we work in, through the film we act, the scripts we write, the film we act, we should all transmit that message that we need a common humanity where everybody is one another's keeper. We are our brother's keeper. We are, each of us is our sister's keeper in the interest of the country. And she brought a good example. You have seen the film area is like a sport. It's just sports. You know, when it comes to football, does anybody stop to think of football or netball or whatever? I don't know which one you love most. Do you stop even to think of, do those prejudices come in? I mean, in terms of where you belong. You all go there for the sport. And you cheer. If it is your side, you cheer. Eh? You can even kick if the person has kicked wrongly, your leg has also gone. That is the kind of the subconscious. We should have that in our subconscious. And so you actually already, you can be a very good disciple of having a Uganda, of a national identity. Now we are quoting those references so that they are backup for you. Yeah, my colleague just mentioned the Vision 2040. It is there that we must have a national value system. Okay? And now, of course, from the political angle also, they are talking of patriotism, they are talking of Pan-Africanism, they are talking of, democracy, they are talking of social transformation. Now, those are things which, as a film, how do you reflect those in your film? Because there has to be a conscious contribution. And I liked it. Mr. Gaba has gone away. He made a very good point. He will say, are you going there for the money that today you earn tomorrow, but the people who are your spectators or your viewers tomorrow are no more? You want something sustainable, so that today people who have watched you, the number will instead grow instead of diminishing. That's one way of building. So the country is also built like that. Today you have a certain number of people, but you want you can get the entire country to watch your film, to follow you, that is better. But you can do that best if you create the cement that will join people together and make people feel one another that they are together. Isn't it? That is the thing. So this is an entry point we are making as a contribution to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dominic, for those responses. Members, time. We've run out of time, but when you look on your program, there are two remaining items. One, recommendations and way forward, and then the closure. Is it possible to get yes, I've captured some of them as we were speaking. Is it possible to get about 5 recommendations that we can ably work on so that we can be in position to move from where we are to another level? Please, if you have, just be precise. Say the point and we take it. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. My first recommendation is how we can really go about such kind of stereotypes. I would think, for example, if some government entities like Uganda Tourism Board, they come on board and we have those dialogues together with them, we can work out their goals and okay, as we are writing, as we are creating these works, for example, I would like to write something promoting my country, about tourism, about forestry and the scenic nature of our country. But in the first place, I might lack permission to go and access those beautiful locations which will portray my country, all those cultural areas where I would perform my film
or everything that I would love to. And I really fail to have permission, or they fail to welcome.
Can you summarize it?
Yeah.
In one sentence.
Help me. Okay. Let's find a way to collaborate together with the filmmakers and those people so that we can have a better working environment.
So one
and
of
we
them
promote
is
each other's
collaboration and
values.
the stakeholder engagement.
Yes.
On these issues. Yes, madam.
Well, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. So after listening to all the presentations made by our different presenters, I have, I think, about 3 recommendations to make. One is the issues concerning the vetting of the product before it is out. Now, what can our government do to help our filmmakers to achieve that? During this year's festival, Uganda Film Festival, I've attended all the workshops, and I was at Uganda Institute of Communication and Technology, and they have there a very big hall. It's always empty. And I was like, the first thing that came to my mind, I was like, when filmmakers are done making their films, in most cases they don't do the preview with the critics or with the other people because they don't have that space for projections and all that stuff. So why can't government give us such a space whereby you can apply, then go sit there and watch your film with those who can help you with exactly.
So that is putting in place mechanisms for peer reviewing
exactly
of the content before it goes out.
Absolutely.
The other one which I've also noted from you is that there should be put in place standards. Yes, standards for the sector.
Standards for the sectors. Now the other one is the standards for actors in Uganda. As when we're looking at the film production, I always forget to talk about the actors who are the face of the movies, right? So as someone is praising sorry, but how you tell it is how the audience perceives it. So as filmmakers, what about those people who are there? The people we are hearing the stories from. Let's have country cinema, right? For this film to be shown to those people at almost zero cost. So as simple as that, thank you so much for the
Thank you so much for your submission. 30 seconds, please. Yes, say the point.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kawes. And thanks to everybody. Just 3 issues. One, I wish to appreciate fellow filmmakers for today's session. They've not overcried.
They always cry.
Sometimes we overcry and we are like, it is too much. 2, my humble appeal. Sometimes we end such sessions and it's just, yes, it happened and it goes. What is our biggest take home? I would want to encourage us that from today's lessons, much of the things that I found personally, it's about self-reflection. What is it that we are doing to get whatever levels we desire? I think it comes back to us as filmmakers. Today, UNATCOM has brought us together, but coming back to we ourselves at individual level, what is our contribution towards that greater good that we all want to see? All the references that have been made, Mr. Tendiebwa brought up this whole research, but at the end of the day, I felt the conviction asking myself, what is my contribution towards that? So you at individual level as a filmmaker, what are you contributing to the culture? Yes, we shall have all these, there is the market, there is there are all these challenges, but at individual level, I think there is something that we can do as filmmakers to change the paradigm shift of our communities. In fact, I've forgotten the gentleman's name who was teaching us about script writing. Mr. Agaba, he said, who is that person we are making the movies for? It is not going to do us good to destroy the people that are going to buy us tomorrow. I think it is also our responsibility to instill the good seeds that we want to see in the community that we desire. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's unfair because I got the opportunity to talk, and I just wanted to, the recommendations. One, government has to invest, because somebody alluded to it. Government has to invest in promoting our culture by supporting culture films, because if you don't invest in your culture, nobody does. Usually we get funding from other countries. They're not going to fund your culture. Two, training institutions need to understand that art and production goes beyond the production and like what's the motive, the nation building, beyond the bigger picture. And the third thing is that we have to, because most of the filmmakers are self-made, we need to continue with these kinds of trainings and workshopping.
Thank you so much. Members, I know there are so many people who want to say something. You all have my number. Yes, as we were inviting you, the invitations we sent have the email and the 2 lines which are on WhatsApp. Please give us more of what you think we need to do to improve this sector. Is it okay?
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much. I would like to take this opportunity first of all to thank you so much for being a very good audience. I think this is a team we need to continue working with so that we can be in position to improve the sector. I would also like to thank Mr. Wanika and Ruth for supporting me to mobilize the rest. Then my team I've worked with to make sure that we invite you, but also be here with you. And lastly, to Sarah for offering us this system you see here, which has made us go online. Thank you so much. I would like now to invite Dominic to handle the last session. Thank you so much.
I think, thank you very much. Let's first clap for ourselves. I think we have done very well. Okay, we have been very good participants. He has already said it. And I hope these recommendations are going to be shared later on at Secretariat so that we'll be able to share it, and then we'll be able to take off from there, where we have stopped today. What has not come out is a recommendation for further coming together or future. I was waiting to hear that, but nobody came up with it. So since you have had enough, I don't know.
Continued workshopping.
That kind of thing, yes, I mean, it didn't come out clearly. But I hope it's implied. So now, we have sat here the whole day, and as you say, people normally cry. Is it Wanika who said it? At least I'm glad you didn't cry. So now, we have here at the beginning, I introduced to you when I was inviting the chief guest. I told you that the Secretary General of the National Commission for UNESCO was in another meeting, and she had expressed that we thought we would do that, but we agreed to go ahead, and then she comes combines the first role with the last role. And so that is what I'm asking us to prepare for right now. We are going to receive the Secretary. She will greet us, combine some remarks at the beginning which did not come, and then close this workshop. It's there for my honor. Humbly request you to come greet the participants, and then also share information with them, and finally close the workshop. So let's
to tell me exactly what I should do. Okay, good evening. He has told me to greet you. He has told me to welcome you. Welcome. He has also told me to tell you what I would have said in the morning. That one I will do. Anyway, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am not going to bore you to begin talking about your welcome, what I should have done in the morning. The director already opened. It will be opening another thing when we are coming to the end. So I'm here to just make a few remarks. First of all, I would like to thank you very much for being here up to now. It's been a long day. And I would like to also apologize for not being here in the morning. Every Monday, we have senior management meeting. And we sit in the Ministry of Education. So the SG is a member of senior management and top management of the ministry. Now today was a little bit unusual. We had a very, where do I see them putting it on the bum? Why don't you? Why don't you hook it somewhere? Huh? Don't you see them putting it on the bum? Huh? Huh? There's nothing. That the bum is very far. Okay. So today was a little unusual. We had only one item on the agenda, and it was rather engaging. And you all know that UNESCO is the lead agency for education. The matters being discussed were very important because we are now talking about transforming education. There's a whole big summit. Next week, there's a pre-summit in Paris, and there will be another summit in September. Countries are supposed to present what they envision their education system to look like in the future. But coincidentally, the issues under discussion were very hot, you know. Nobody left. Actually, the PS commented that every day on Monday, you find people sending cheats. PS, I'm running. I was also planning to send a cheat that I'm running to the National Theatre, but nobody moved. Even those online, I actually decided to attend online so that it would be easier to sneak. Nobody moved. So we were discussing a very important issue. I knew I had to be here, but I knew my people were here, okay? So you did not miss me at all because it was well handled. So thank you for understanding. Now the issue that we are training you on is a very pertinent issue. Handling cultural diversity using the film. Okay? How do we promote cultural diversity using the film industry? A lot has been said. I came in especially where the issues of stereotypes were being talked about. And I think all of us in this room have fallen victims one time or another of stereotypes or stereotyping, where you are described in a certain way, where you are called certain names, whether true or false. You feel like that, you know. You people said it that Baganda are known as thieves. You people also said it that they actually are fit for gods. You people said many things. So those are the stereotypes. Personally, I've also suffered stereotypes. You know, when I was growing up, we were called names, you know. I grew up in a multi-ethnic, fortunately, environment in Lower Kololo. Our immediate neighbors were Bachiga, Banyankole were here, Baganda that way, Bagisu there, who were children of civil servants. So we were all living in one place. Sometimes in our fights, you know, you would be reminded that you are Mudokolo. You know? In ours, well, you people call everybody who is from the north either a Mucholi or a Mulugwara. That is what I know. But there are very many tribes. Yeah? I come from Lango. So they call us Badokolo. Though you'd be reminded that you are Mudokolo. You are very black like charcoal, you know? Your mother put you in the sun. Huh? You know, they had that belief that we are black because when we are born, our mothers put us in the sun. Huh? So we get the black skin. Okay? So we would be reminded, and it would be abusive, you know? But interestingly, my home, my roots are in Dokolo. So we would say, hey, we actually come from Dokolo. Huh? So it was not an insult. Then the black skin, my mother, when we were growing up, 5 girls, say, oh, my black beauties. So for us, we knew we were black beauties. So being told that you are black like charcoal, I didn't understand. It never made any sense. I always call Angela here my black beauty. Hey, we are the black beauties in the office. And we are very proud of it. So what am I trying to say? As individuals, you can also fight these stereotypes. Okay? Before you begin using film to fight the stereotypes. Because already Dominic said that it is about diversity. We are different. Of course, it has those negative connotations attached, and those stereotypes come up. But we can do better. We can learn to turn those stereotypes into positive things and therefore enhance the diversity other than using it to pull personalities down. In that way, we shall deal with those differences. We shall learn to live like Ugandans, you know, who have diversities, you know, that are good in their own right and can be respected. And you can use your film to promote all that and make it so positive. It is interesting, someone asked a question that what if he was doing a historical film, you know, and you want to describe that a certain people behave this way, and you actually know that they have some certain negative behavior. You said of blowing the nose, huh? Blowing the nose. Now, is that the most important thing about them that you want to show? Of blowing the nose? You know it is filthy for someone to touch their mucus, throw it all over. It's very filthy, very nasty. Now, in your journey, your historical journey, is that the best thing you want to do? Huh? If you left it out, wouldn't you still talk about those people and their migration and their historical line? Think about it. If it is the most important thing that cannot be detached, perhaps you could then think of using a tribe that is not related to that vice to bring it up. But for me, I think the best thing, if it doesn't harm anybody, it is not the best way to identify that community. You can leave it out, not to hurt anybody. Also be conscious of how you deal with people. You know, you you've heard about them that they do that. You know it is negative. You can bring, you know, another way of doing it to kill the vice, other than showing them as they are moving and blowing their nose and putting in their, no. That's negative. And that's, I think, what Sarah, what everybody here was talking about, that stereotyping. When I was in school, and I have a background of drama and theater, I did theater. Our lecturers would pick, when they're picking characters, and they know that Rosie is a very quarrelsome person naturally, they would never give me the role of being a quarrelsome, because I would not be acting, I would be myself. You understand? I would be myself on stage. Instead, I would be given the opposite. For example, if I were quarrelsome, we turned the novel, Things Fall Apart. We wrote a script. It was an exam. We wrote a script and we role played the novel, Things Fall Apart. Okay? Now the character of Okonko, you know Okonko, those of you who read that book, Okonko was a fierce man who never wanted to be seen as a weak man. He walked, you know, bouncing. His heels never touched the ground, you know. He was harsh because he didn't want to be called a weak man. Because his father was a weak man, he wanted to be the opposite of his father. Now, when it came to choosing the character of Okonko in the class, we were surprised that our lecturer picked the most humble man, the most humble character, boy in class. People expected one fierce northerner, fierce looking, to be picked as Okonko. But our lecturer picked a very humble man. Mr. Lukwago is actually the deputy in Makerere College. Okay? Picked him for that role. And Kenneth had to be trained to bring out the character of Okonko. He actually acted because that was not him. If they had picked a man who was fierce in appearance, fierce in character, he would be presenting himself. You see that? So your choice of characters as filmmakers, I heard you know, saying the actually man should be the gatekeeper because he already looks fierce. Then you want him to speak the other broken Luganda, you know, which is really natural about them because that is not their mother tongue. They will speak that with that heavy accent, the heavy Luo accent. Is that what you want to hear? But if I picked Dan, for example, first of all, he's short, he's light-skinned, you know, he's a Muganda, but he will now have to change that accent and speak like his, you know, people will say, well done. He's brought the character out, you know. That's what we do in theater. For me, I studied theater, so you're not cheating me. Yeah? So don't paint negativity. We were told these things, you know. You want to show violence, you don't carry a knife on stage. No. You do something a toy-like. You actually create your own knife. Yeah? We went miles and miles. Instead of wearing real beads, we would go for seeds and make beads, you know, out of those seeds. That was creativity. So likewise, in film, there's creativity that can bring a lot of enhancement of cultural expressions and diversity without being negative. So I think what our thoughts were like when we were bringing this up, we wanted to stop stereotyping. We wanted to promote cultural diversity because cultural diversity finally brings us together. There's social cohesion, brings us together. We learn to respect each other. We learn to appreciate each other. I liked her story, you know, and I felt like asking, is that Burundi man your husband? Okay.
I'm considering.
Please get married to him. Get married to him, you know, because your mind is correct, you know. You have fought that stereotype, but I didn't understand. What do you mean by Burundi? Don't do what? What is Intega? Oh, Ibambi, no. Oh, no. Please give him a baby. You see, her mind is correct. Dominic referred to something very important, global citizenship. You know, UNESCO has a program now of promoting peaceful coexistence, respect for humanity, intercultural dialogue, non-discrimination, you know, through global citizenship education, where we believe everybody is a human being, irrespective of their diversities. Whether they are thin, like my brother here, stout, like my brother here, very dark, like this one here, with very big hips, like this one here, we are the same. And we can reap a lot from that diversity by respecting and appreciating. You know, so many things happen around us. In one school, because we also deal with education, an ASPNet school, a UNESCO associated project school. So many bad things were happening. The school is located in Western Uganda, high profile school, and of course, the majority of the students were from rich families and from certain clusters, you know. So they found themselves in their cocoons, you know. For us, we are wannabes, you know, looking down upon the rest. Perhaps there was a girl from Madi in that school. Who is a Madi? She's being underlooked, you know, and perhaps she might be very dark, like Dominic, therefore, dark people are ugly, you know. Then there is another one who, I don't know, comes from where. So these girls were highly discriminated against. It was a very bad scenario. They wanted to run away from the school. Whatever the sister who was the head teacher tried to do could never bring these girls to appreciate the others who are not from their clusters. So in our dialogue, the school decided to organize cultural days. And in the cultural days, the girls would showcase their cultures, their food, their dressing, their dances, their songs, etc. But of course, because they were few, they would team up. The small ones would team up. Today they are singing a Langi song. Tomorrow they are in a Lugwara song. The other one they are doing La Raka Raka together. These ones had their things. When it came to cooking, they had planned. You know, they carried their dry stuff into the town. They had to cook. These ones, the minority ones, they cooked their malakwang, they cooked their bo, they did their kalo, they did, you know, unique things. You know, they had their odi. Then these ones, of course, they had theirs as well. That was actually well known too. They had overeaten them. They knew. So they started, let me test. How does it look? Let me test. They started appreciating. They started appreciating, you know, the dances. Seeing those people, you know, they said, you mean that's how they do it? Then they see the girls, and then, let us also try. They joined the dances. They enjoyed the dances. They said, these people even have very good things. They enjoyed the dances, they enjoyed the food, they began appreciating. You see, appreciation. What had been stereotyped was now being appreciated. They also knew that these people are also human beings with good things after all. Do you see how we break it? So how can we be creative enough to promote cultural expressions and diversity? You know, help us to promote this so that we live like Ugandans, appreciate each other, okay? Many times I have been approached, where do you come from? I look at them and I say, but now, I'm a Ugandan. Huh? 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 Oh, I beg you. From Kolo? No, I come from Dokolo. Huh? You know, then they start asking you, where do you come from? That's a bad question. Huh? You know, before I speak and before you see my name, you may perhaps place me somewhere else that I don't belong. But then some people, after seeing your name, after, you know, maybe there is a trait of an accent, then they say, but where do you come from? That is a bad question. That is discriminatory. You want to know where I come from so that, you know, what do you do about it? I'm a Ugandan, period. Take me as I am. Appreciate me the way I am. Unless you have other interests. And you want to know the clan so that there's no intermarriage, maybe. Incest. But other than that, it is not a good question. So ladies and gentlemen, may we learn to appreciate each other. May we learn to reflect these diversities in our films in a positive way. Even the negatives can be turned into positives. And that one will help us to coexist and appreciate each other and stop pointing fingers. You know, it's not nice. So with this, I would like to thank you for being here. I would like to thank the facilitators. I missed some of them. I would like to thank my colleagues in office for doing a good job. You can now see that the Commission can even run a program without the SG's physical presence. They are here. I don't have to be everywhere, but things can move. I only come to do the ceremonial things, you know, only, you know. The technical work they can handle. So thank you very much for doing a good job. And I say this to let you know that we now come to the closure. I would like to close the meeting, and I say this for God and my country.
Thank you so much.
Your thing, which you refuse.
Remember to come to the end, just administrative announcements, like we indicated in the letter. We have some little transport refunds for you. We are going to see him. Can you please stand up so they can see you? He's going to give you your transport refund. But before you come, please handle Sarah so that you can